Here we go. We're recording in three, two, and one.
Man, starting a rebellion ain't like dusting crops, boy.
Eh, eh. Welcome to episode 204 of Nerdery and Murdering.
Big 204. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. So I'm still living with plywood on my back wall.
Mhm. It
I'm
doesn't look that bad.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. Um, we have dealt with months now of non-communication from the project manager, the construction owner, the guy who does the construction, workers that don't show up and blah blah blah. Um, and it's bad. I mean, it's really bad. The lack of communication from our construction guy is just awful. We've given him several opportunities to let us know, what's going on, what our deadlines are, because we're well over a month past the initial deadline. Um, I got to a point I sent him a very formal um, letter on Friday, and I told him, I said, "You have till noon tomorrow. I want a written statement of what is left, what your plans are, and what our official deadline is. And if I do not have that by noon Saturday,
Mhm.
I'm seeking legal action."
Mhm.
Nothing. Got
But
nothing from him.
are you
Not a
seeking legal
response.
action?
Oh yeah, I already have. I talked to somebody I know who who was a former lawyer down here.
Mhm.
And I said, "Hey, do you know any contract lawyers?" And he said, "Yes, I do." So I will be contacting a lawyer on Monday and unfortunately going into legal proceedings. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous where we are. Um, we shouldn't have had to go through this. And the worst part about it is, my mother-in-law is not in the best of health, and she has to climb up and down the stairs every day to take a shower because her bathroom is unusable. Um, and I'm just fed up. I can't take it anymore. I'm tired of living in a constant state of construction and chaos and never knowing whether somebody's going to show up or not. It's maddening. And unfortunately, I hate having to go this route. I really hate having to go this route because this is somebody we know. And it's just gotten bad. I hate that I have to go this route. Um, but I guess we have to, which is going to probably mean months of living in this construction because I'm sure that's going to mean everything's going to come to a grinding halt.
Mhm.
But it is what it is. It just something's got to be done about this because we can't keep going down this path. He had a deadline. He was gonna it was gonna be it was supposed to be complete the end of March, and we're in
Mhm.
May. You know, so and it's been just repeated. Where are we at? What are we doing? Oh, there's somebody be here. I've got workers that are going to be there today. Never show up. Oh, I'm going to come by tomorrow and talk to y'all about this. Never show up. Not, hey, I got busy. All we have asked, just tell us. Tell
Mhm.
us, you know what? I got tied up in another job. We're on a delay. We're going to do this. If we had had that, we wouldn't be here. But we have to beg and plead for everything we're doing, and it's just, I'm just tired of it. So, yeah, anyway, that's where I am on that.
Yeah, we had a similar issue building Susie's place on the back of our house. Um, the first guy we hired, we ended up having to hire somebody else.
Yeah. And that's what I think is going to have to happen is we're going to have to get a refund.
Mhm.
And
Oh, good, because honestly, Susie paid for putting the place on the back of our house because she was like, "It's mine, I'll pay for it," but she didn't get any of that money back.
yeah, we're going to have to fight for
Luckily,
that.
they were able to reuse a lot of the stuff that was there.
Well, did you get a lawyer?
No,
Yeah, I think you got a
she ended
lawyer.
up using a contractor who was the son of someone she worked with,
Mm,
and he cut her a great deal. And he's like, "Look, we will reuse everything that is there. All of that can be reused." And he did. He used all. Well, I mean, he didn't like reuse the nails, but
Well,
All of the wood he was able to reuse.
ours can't be reused. We have to have a whole wall built on the back
Yeah.
of our house. You know, there's nothing to reuse.
Yeah.
It's all the installation stuff. You know, wires still hanging from the ceiling where
Hmm.
lights are supposed to be, and
Basically, just finish up the work that they have done. And now, granted, I understand that slidey wall thing will need to be installed, but
right.
like the lights, they could fix that.
Yeah, they could. They
Yeah,
could.
that's
They
it.
get
That work is done. All they have to do is just tighten them up.
right. Yeah. So anyway, sucks. Sucks, sucks, sucks. You got anything for us, or you want to step over to the nerdery side of the house?
Um, yeah, that's about it. Well, other than I feel your pain, man. We had to
Yeah.
go through it. It was awful.
Yeah.
But now we have like a third bathroom, so
Nice.
yay.
Nice.
I never use it,
Huh.
but Lorelai, that's her preferred place to shower.
Nice.
Um, and we hired the guy across the street to kind of finish up the little. There's like a little, I want to say atrium, but it's like a little, little porch,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with glass in it, so we could put plants out there. That's really
Mm-hmm.
nice, and it's like in between the houses. So
Yeah. Very nice.
yeah, he finished that up. He's like, this is easy, and then did use the brick that was on the side of the house, made a path. Really beautiful,
Cool.
good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. So starting a rebellion ain't like dusting crops, boy. We're going to talk about Andor and in
Okay.
our Star Wars series, which we are doing chronologically. We have come
Okay.
to Andor.
Let me pause here real
Mhm.
quick. Do not give away spoilers. I have not watched season two yet. Season two is still dropping.
All of my notes are about season one.
Okay. Because, yeah, season
I
two
have
is,
seen 6 episodes of season two.
yeah, I'm not going to watch it until it's completely out.
Yeah.
I can't stand having to wait. It's so bad. I mean, we grew up in an era where we had to wait every week for a new
Mhm.
episode, but
Uh-huh.
now I'm in the habit. I want to see it all. So yeah, I have not watched one
Yeah, yeah,
single
yeah.
bit
All of my notes
of
are
Andor
about
2
season
yet.
one, mostly about production. Um, I will say one thing about season two. Uh, the suspense level is just like season one.
Okay.
Like starts out kind of a slow burn because they are building a rebellion and doing some shenanigans on the side. Same sort of thing is happening in season two. Um, so you're like, yeah, man, this is kind of a slow burn by episode one. By episode six, I was holding my breath, like, are they gonna make it? Are they gonna make it? Oh my God,
Stop it. Stop it.
are they gonna make it?
Stop it.
That's it. That's it.
Stop
That
it.
is not a spoiler.
Stop
All I'm
it.
telling you is that it is good and it follows the same lead. So if you
Stop it.
liked season one, you will love season two because it's that times two. Um, so Andor, also known as Star Wars Andor, and Andor, a Star Wars story, is for its second season, is an American science fiction television series created by Tony Gilroy for the streaming service Disney Plus. It is part of the Star Wars franchise and a prequel to the film Rogue One, which was released in 2016, which in turn is a prequel to the original Star Wars film retitled A New Hope, which was released in 1977. The series follows thief turned rebel spy Cassian Andor during the 5 years that lead to the events of the two films, exploring how he becomes radicalized against the Galactic Empire and how the wider Rebel Alliance is formed. Um, that is the slow burn part of the show. They are trying to set up a rebellion, and they're trying to set it up where it will succeed. And the amount of intrigue and spy shit that's going on in the background, because it is all in the background, and how there are people there you think, oh, this guy's definitely an Imperial, and you're watching him, it's like, oh shit, that guy's gonna end up being a rebel. It's amazing. Um, and it tracks all of that. There are a lot of people who didn't like this series, and I, for one, cannot figure out why. I don't know what it. I think it may be the slow burn,
And
because it does
I
kind
think it is because I'm with you on that. I fully enjoyed Andor. And
Hmm.
yes, there is some slow parts, and it is a slow burn, but I thought it was really well done.
It needs to be.
Yeah.
It needs to be. You need to establish that tension.
Hmm.
Um, Diego Luna reprises his role as Cassian Andor from Rogue One and serves as executive producer. The series also stars Kyle Solar, Adrija Aranja, Stellan Skarsgård, Fiona Shaw, Genevieve O'Reilly, who is amazing. Genevieve O'Reilly plays Mon Mothma, a character who had 5 minutes in The Return of the Jedi.
But
Mon
has
Mothma, you know, in 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe 10.
I don't think it's even 10, but Mon Mothma has a lot of lore
Mm-hmm.
behind that character throughout the Star Wars universe. Mon
Mm-hmm.
Mothma is a very big force.
Mm-hmm. She's the mother of the rebellion,
Hmm.
and you don't realize that. Um, and by the time we get to A New Hope, Star Wars, whatever you call it, which was made in 1977, there were all these steps that had to happen to get them there because they are a rebellion against a galactic empire, which is a galactic fucking empire. It is hard to hide from that. You have to have funding, you have to have material, you have to have people, you have to have propaganda going the other direction. You have to have all of this stuff, and all of that is working when we see it in Star Wars: A New Hope. What Andor is giving us is the steps that lead up to that, because you see that they have it by Rogue One, which takes place right before A New Hope. So Rogue One and New Hope, they're I don't even want to say. I think they're minutes apart in the storyline.
Correct. From Rogue One to Star Wars, it's literally the end scene of Rogue One leads to the very first scene in Star Wars: A New Hope. There's
Yes.
we might have minutes or hours gap, but that's about it. Is
Yeah.
hours at the top.
Yeah.
Mon Mothma wasn't in A New Hope.
No. She was in
Okay.
Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Oh yes. Okay. I thought you had said that. I was like, no, Mon Mothma wasn't in A New Hope.
No, no. She was in Return of the Jedi. She
Yes.
basically was calling the shots
Yes.
when they're going to take out the second Death Star. Um, uh, Denise Goff as well. Faye Marseille, Verada Sithu, and Elizabeth Dulau. Lucasfilms announced a series focused on Andor in November of 2018, with Luna attached and Stephen Schiff hired as showrunner. Schiff was replaced by Rogue One co-writer Gilroy as creator and showrunner in April of 2020. Filming took place at Pinewood Studios in London and on location around the United Kingdom, with Neil Scanlon returning from Rogue One to provide practical effects. The first season, which tells a year of Andor's story when he first becomes a revolutionary, was filmed from November 2020 to September 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic. The second season covers the next 4 years leading up to Rogue One and was filmed from November 2022 to February 2024 with breaks and delays due to the 2023 Hollywood labor disputes. Nicholas Breitel composed the series' original score. Andor premiered on September 21st, 2022 with the first 3 episodes of the first season. The other 9 episodes of the season were released weekly through November 23. The first season received widespread acclaim from critics who considered it the most complex and mature story in the Star Wars lore. I would agree with that. As well as several accolades. It was nominated for 3 Primetime Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Drama Series. The second and final season is scheduled to premiere on April 22nd, 2025. And it basically tells the story 5 years before the events of Rogue One and A New Hope. The series follows an ensemble cast of characters during the time that the Rebel Alliance is forming and in opposition to the Galactic Empire. One of those characters is Cassian Andor, a thief who becomes a revolutionary. Um, they describe this as a spy thriller, and you
Hmm.
get that a lot. Um, there is a character played by Stellan Skarsgård called Lucian, who is an antiques dealer. He's this vapid, uh, scholarly kind of uh, um, artsy fartsy guy who just kind of floats around society on Coruscant, which is the main planet in the Star Wars universe. It's where everything
Hmm.
happens. Um, he is also uh, the leader of the Dirty Trick Squad of the Rebellion. And the two people that he plays, basically, because it is the same character, but he is two faces. The two
Hmm.
faces could not be more different. And he threads the needle when he's talking as he puts on a wig. When he's talking as Lucian, his accent, his voice, everything is different. When he turns it around and he's the dirty trick squad leader in the rebellion and this manipulative son of a bitch, um, whose whose only goal is to stop the empire worlds apart. And he could turn it on a dime, which is why I'm glad they got Stellan Skarsgård for that. They could have gotten other people, but I think he kind of the artsy fartsy Lucian and the dirty trick squad Lucian bookend. They could almost be two different people,
Hmm.
which is what I love about the way he's playing that, and he carries that into the second season really well. I mean, in some cases where he's going back and forth, he's talking to somebody in the Dirty Tricks leader voice, and then turns around and talks to somebody in the Lucian voice. Like it's that fast. It changes everything about himself. Um, and they're trying to get money. And Mon Mothma is a senator from Chandrilla, which is a very rich planet. Um, which has it's an old planet in the Republic, like um, Bail Organa. Bail
Alderaan.
Organa is not played by Jimmy Smits, but played by uh, not Esai Morales. I'll have to look it up. He's an incidental character. Anyway, he's played by an actor who looks like a young Jimmy Smits. Or,
I'll have it here in
looks
a
like
second.
looks like Jimmy Smits when he was making the prequels. Um, quite adeptly. Um, I know that actor too, and I love that actor. I just his name is escaping me.
I'll have it here in a minute.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it basically jumps right. The second season jumps right back in where the first season left off. It's a few months later, um, and they're broken because part of part of the gaining and the building of this rebellion is a lot of people died. They didn't win a lot. They won very little. A lot of the times they lose, and they got to be okay with that. And as Andor and Lucian talk about, we either win or we die. Those are our two options. Take me away in chains or put me in a hole. Um, is how it's going to go out. And knowing what we know about Cassian Andor's future, this dovetails quite well because we know what happens to Cassian Andor at the end of Rogue One. And for those who haven't seen it, go watch it.
Benjamin Bratt is Bail Organa.
Yeah, Benjamin Bratt. And he's coming off just like, although he's just in it for a few minutes at a time. But yeah, so you've got the Chandrillans and uh, the Alderanians and some of the others who see this empire as being a bad thing, but they're afraid to. A lot of the people are afraid to speak out. Well, they're not speaking out. They're funding the rebellion. It's like we're going to get our democracy back, and this is how we're going to do it. And they are doing the politics. They are doing the funding. They're talking with Lucian because he's basically everybody's contact.
Well, and
I
so
have a
in
sneaking suspicion, and I don't know this, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Lucian is going to come to a very nasty end
most
because this
likely.
dude cannot walk that tightrope that long.
You're kind of hitting on what I think are probably some of people's problems with this show.
Hmm.
Um, some people don't like it because it's too much politics.
Hmm.
And I can appreciate where they are in that. So like our friend Mike over on Two Geeks and a Microphone, he loves it's either him or Steven, one of the two. I can't remember which one, but whichever one loves the book about um oh my gosh, Palpatine's uh mentor. Sidious? No, not
Plagueis,
Sidious. Plagius,
Plagueis the
Plagius the Wise. Thank you. God, I was
Plagueis the
losing
Wise.
it. There's a book about Plagius the Wise and Palpatine and leading up and everything, and it's very, very political. And you go on the ins and outs, and I found it a little boring.
Hmm.
So I can see where some people would think that about this because if you don't like watching a lot of political game, you're not going to like it.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought it was very intriguing in Andor. My problem with Andor, I had the exact same problem with Moon Knight,
Hmm.
is there's a series of events that just take too long. In Moon Knight, it was in the sanitarium,
Hmm.
sanatorium, however you say that.
Hmm.
It was too long in Moon Knight. In Andor, it was the prison.
Hmm.
It was too long. It's like let's wrap this up. Let's get moving
Yeah,
on
the
that
prison
one.
episode should have been chopped down a little bit more. I
Yes.
get it.
Yeah. And so
You know
that's what
what? But
some people have a problem with Andor is they think that some things just take way too long,
yeah,
and it's that slow burn you talk about. But I think when you look at Andor in the grand picture, this is a very, very good series.
yeah, yeah. Well, and they address some of the things going on in the prison in the second season.
Hmm.
They address why is this, so you kind of get an answer as to why.
Hmm.
Um, uh, no spoilers,
Yeah,
no
please.
spoilers,
Please.
no spoilers. But yeah, um, yeah, because in the prison sequence before that, Andor basically almost gets out, and then he gets charged and has to go he has to go into jail, and then it just stiffens his resolve.
Hmm.
Um, so he's in better shape. He's in better shape now than he was. I mean, he's almost to where he was in Rogue One. By this the second season, Andor is Andor is the Andor we know from Rogue One, who's basically Lucian. Because I truly think I think Lucian's going to come to a really nasty end, and Andor's going to have to step up and take his place. Um, although I don't know how Andor can't be the antiques dealer. I don't know how he's going to do it, but I'm curious to see. And again, I haven't seen anything on Lucian going out. I'm not giving a spoiler away. This is just what I think's going to happen
Hmm.
because he can't thread that needle that long. Um, God, I love Stellan Skarsgård in this. He's so good,
Yes, he is.
and Genevieve O'Reilly is so good because she's coming from the perspective of you do the right thing. Whatever that is, you do the right thing. That's why I'm a senator. And she's trying to come to terms with the right thing right now is to do these dirty tricks,
Hmm.
is to do this intrigue. And yes, some people are gonna get murdered, and I have to be okay with that. And that's where her brain is right now. And it's like, God damn. But she's still trying to keep the pretense of elite, moneyed, senatorial, and but she's having a hard time with all of this. And again, I like it. I don't. Lucian isn't. Lucian is he is laser fucking focused. So the two of them playing off of each other and fucking getting into arguments, and in the way that Lucian and Andor talk. Lucian talks to Andor like he's a piece of shit, and it's like, dude, relax. It's like, no. You said we either win or we die. What do you think we're doing? He's like, that doesn't just apply to you. That applies to the people you're working with. Um, So yeah, it's this amazing thing going on. Let me get down to some more production notes. It gets 5 years. Disney CEO Bob Iger announced in November 2017 that Disney and Lucasfilms were developing live-action Star Wars television series for the new streaming service Disney Plus. One of these series was revealed a year later to be the prequel to the film Rogue One. The series was described as a spy thriller show focusing on the character Cassian Andor. Um, Jared Bush originally developed the series, writing a pilot script and series bible for the project. By the end of November 28, Stephen Schiff was serving as showrunner and executive producer of the series. Tony Gilroy, who was credited as co-writer on Rogue One and oversaw extensive reshoots for the film, joined the series by early 2019 when he discussed the first story detail with Luna. Gilroy had received an earlier version of the script, who compared Andor's relationship with K2SO to that of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and felt it was totally limited and claustrophobic, which is why K2SO is not in the first season. Um, I think he's supposed to show up in the second season, but we're pretty far in and I haven't seen him yet. Rick Rick Famuyiwa, sorry, was in early talks to direct several episodes after doing the same for the first live action Star Wars series, The Mandalorian. Gilroy's involvement was revealed that October when he was set to write the first episode, direct multiple episodes, and work alongside uh, Schiff. Uh, and Gilroy officially replaced Schiff as showrunner by 2020, April of that year. Um, in February 2021, Ben Karen and Susan White were set as additional directors. Shane Wallenberg and Michelle Redjwan, also executive producers. Stellan Skarsgård was added to the cast. Cinematographer Adriano Goldman said that originally plans for the series to last 5 seasons, but he believed those had changed. It was now expected to last 3. I think it's only going to last 2. I think that's the is the idea now that this second season is going to be the other 4 years. But again, so far it's happening pretty quickly in the same time. It's like 6 months later. Um, and it's all happening, pretty quickly. He's got to go here. He's away for a week or so. He's got to come back.
I'm so sorry. This is not Andor, but it just when you talk about the slow pacing, it just reminds me of this. I was just looking at this the other day. Is that scene in Clerks 2 where Randall is talking about how boring Lord of the Rings is and says, "Here, let me show you what these movies are about." Walks a few paces, turns around. Here's the second movie. Walks a few paces, turns around.
Yeah,
And here's the
dodges
third
something,
movie. Yeah, and
walks a
here's
few
the
pages,
third movie. Walks,
dodges something, throws the
throws the
ring in and
ring into the
goes.
pit. Eh, sorry, made me think of that.
It's not that slow. But yeah, you really do get the hero's journey with Andor, and it does have kind of a film de noir feel. The scenes in the first season where they're on the rainy planet, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, really look like 1977. You know what I mean? They
Mm-hmm.
really kind of capture that Guns of Navarone kind of feel, and that's what's going on. They're these little rebellious guys, and they're trying to run. They they're just now getting their uniforms. Um, but there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of yeah. We can't take them on. We cannot take on the Empire head on. We do not have the resources. We're going to have to hit and run them. We're going to have to out propagandize them. Um, and they are discovering this because there's some people that stand up and go, "We just need to take them head on," and they get told pretty quickly, um, "No, we will all die, and the rebellion will end, and everybody will be enslaved forever. We have to do it this way if we're going to make it." And it's under no certain terms. This is not about self-preservation. This is about saving the galaxy. If you're concerned about your own ass, there's the fucking door. Runs through the whole series. Um, this one guy who fancies himself a freedom. Now, you know what? That's a spoiler. He gets tote how the cow ate the cabbage. Let's just say that, and it's like, God damn. And characters are gonna die. You need to be comfortable with that. People you like are gonna die. You need to
Hmm.
be comfortable with that
Hmm.
because that's what happens when you take down an evil empire, and that's what the show's about. But again, it's not just about the gunfights and the space battles. It's about what's going on in the Senate, because you finally get you finally get the answer to how the Empire is going to deal with the Senate wrangling in the first 20 minutes of A New Hope. They're sitting around a table, and Vader says the Emperor has just dissolved, or was it? No, it was Grand Moff Tarkin who said the Emperor has just dissolved the Senate, and
Hmm.
one of the admirals is like, "How the hell are you going to control the systems without the bureaucracy?"
Regional
Fear of
governors.
Yeah, and regional governors. Fear of this space station will keep the systems in line. So you, and again, I don't know. This is a supposition, just like I think Lucian's going to come to a nasty end. My supposition is that the Empire figures out what they're doing in the Senate, and that's why they get taken out.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
I,
Well, and
I
I think there's probably enough unrest within the Senate and people debating
uh-huh,
what the Galactic Empire is doing,
uh-huh.
and the Emperor foresees the future and says, "Eh, no, I'm just going to get rid of the Senate."
I'm going to get rid of the Senate. We don't need it anymore. We have this space station.
Right.
Uh, and it can blow up a planet. So if they screw with us, we'll just blow the planet up.
Mm.
Which, that's what they do. That's what evil empires do. They salt the earth so no one can live, which is why Tunisia, which used to be one of the bread baskets of the Mediterranean, is a salty ass desert now
Hmm.
because the Romans came in and salted the earth all around the League city of Carthage. 2,000 years or 2,500 years ago, and now it is still a salty ass desert. Which is why they built the main. Tunis is like 25 miles away from the ruins of Carthage because that's how far they had to get so they could grow food. That's what the empire is doing. Um, Luna and Gilroy said the series was about how the disenfranchised can stand up to affect change. Gilroy had not intentionally written the show to create political commentary and rejected the notion of being influenced by contemporary events, but said that it had come to him instinctively. Co-star Fiona Shaw described Gilroy's political commentary in the script as a great scurrilous take on our world and gender, or in general. They did mix some gender politics and showing, that maybe the patriarchy is not necessarily the best thing for any of us. It's not bad. It's not good for you. It's not good for me. It's not good for them. Um, and they kind of wanted to show that, so they did, but without being overtly political. Because if you just did that, this show would be of its time, but wouldn't be relevant in 30 years.
Hmm.
They're talking about bigger ideas that are always relevant, what we should always be on the lookout for. So I'm kind of glad they went that way. Um, because again, things like authoritarianism and patriarchy and stuff, they're bad for everybody. They're bad for you, they're bad for me, they're bad for her, bad for him, whatever you want to call them. And we should get away from stuff like that. And that's basically what they're doing. That's the story they're telling. And what amazes me is, again, that story can be told in 1977, which is when we saw it the first time, and that story can be told in 2025 just as adeptly and hit the same notes. Although Andor is way more, there's a lot more political reelings in Andor than there was in A New Hope.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, but the same things are happening. They just didn't concentrate on them in 1977.
Right.
They told us they got rid of the Senate. We had no idea what that meant.
No, in
Now we do.
1977, we were dealing with space battles and lightsabers
Yeah,
and
exactly.
action. It
Yeah,
was sci-fi action.
yeah,
This is giving the background behind that on the the why,
yeah,
what, when, where, why, who, and how
yeah. But you
leading
still
up
get
to
the
that.
action. That
Yeah,
they're still
yeah,
fighting stormtroopers. And what's great about this is when they shoot somebody, they fucking die.
right,
It's not like a GI Joe cartoon. No one is bailing out. That dude had just got capped.
right.
Holy shit, I loved that guy. I can't believe he just got capped. Well, and if you've seen Rogue One, you know what happens.
Hmm.
You know what's going to happen to these people. Um, but that's okay because they either win or they die. So ultimately, it's in service to that, and that's what the series is about. And I think I've beaten this horse to death. I think we have beaten this horse to death. Get out and watch Andor.
Yeah,
The first
yeah.
season
I
is
can't.
12 episodes. I think the second season is going to be 12 episodes too.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch season two. Like I said, I'm waiting for it to be fully released. Um,
I'm going to tell you
and
right now, by yes, episode 1 and 2 were kind of slow. By episode 6, I'm holding my breath going,
right,
"Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh
right.
shit. No. No, you can't."
Which is exactly why I want to wait till when it's fully out. So I mean, if
Yeah.
we want to continue into the next episode, we can do exactly that. So no, I appreciate your trip down another Star Wars path. I love these. Star Wars
Mhm.
is big time my thing, so I appreciate that.
Yep. I think the next one's going to be Rogue One.
Yeah, it should be in
Yeah.
our chronological stories. Awesome,
Yep.
cool. With that, then we will step over to the murder side of the house.
Murder.
Okay, so for today, I got my information off MSN, The Guardian, Medium, and Vocal. And this is the story about the murder of Jamie Lavif.
Jamie Labith?
Lavif, Lavif.
Labith. Okay.
I'm going to give a forewarning. This story may very well be about one of the biggest pieces of shit I have ever researched. Just a forewarning on that. This bugged the shit out of me. Um, so we're going to start in 1997. It was Monday, May 5th, which was a public holiday in England. Schools were closed, and 8-year-old Jamie Lavis was thrilled to have the day to himself. Jamie and his 11-year-old brother John left their home in Openshaw, which was a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Manchester, so that they could play. And it was a day like any other. They stopped at a local store to grab Jamie's favorite lollipops, but at some point they got separated. John returned home about 3 p.m., but Jamie never did. But at first, his family wasn't too worried. They thought maybe he lost track of time while he was playing with friends. Because after all, Jamie knew how to find his way home by bus. However, as the night fell, worry turned into panic. Jamie hated the dark and always made it home before sunset. His mother, Karen, sent one of Jamie's sisters to search the nearby streets, but he was nowhere to be found. And by the time Jamie's father, John, returned home from work, it was clear something was very wrong. The Lavish family began searching everywhere, playgrounds, local hangouts, even friends' houses, but Jamie had just vanished. So with that, they had no other choice, and they reported him missing to the police. And at first, investigators thought Jamie might have run away, especially since he'd been recently grounded after coming home late on Saturday, May 3rd, with his pockets stuffed with candy. Jamie had told his friends he didn't want to stay home anymore, fearing he'd be punished again. The police did begin their search, focusing on abandoned buildings and factories around Openshaw, places where runaway kids often hid. But Openshaw was a sprawling, rundown area, making the search overwhelming. So desperate for leads, the police held a public press conference. But as the days
Oh,
passed,
Manchester, so much to answer for.
yeah,
Sorry, it's a Smith's line.
but as days passed, hope began to fade, and Jamie disappeared without a trace. The investigation did escalate quickly and turned into one of the largest police operations Manchester had seen in decades. Helicopters, search dogs, and extensive manpower were deployed, drawing comparisons to the infamous Moors murders of the 60s, where children were the victims of serial killers. I did the Moors murders, I think.
Yes, you did. That honestly, that Smith song is about the Moors murders.
Oh, yes, I remember the Moors murders now.
Yeah. Oh, Manchester, so much time to fall. And yeah, I got to do Morrissey voice. Sorry.
Funny as we go along and I mention another crime, it's like, oh, I think I've done this somewhere, but
Yes, you have
y'all,
covered that one. It
y'all,
was one I knew about because of a Smith song.
I've done 200 of these. I'm gonna forget which one I did.
Yeah, I keep.
Um,
Sometimes I will do like a. I'll be doing like an indie song list. I'm like, have we fucking talked about this? So
right.
I got to go back.
Exactly my way with the murders because I've mentioned this in an episode. I'll go back and I'm reading through some research and I'm like, oh man, this is very interesting. This is very interesting. Why do I think I know this story already? Because I've done it.
We talked
Um,
about this when we first started. It's like, man, we're gonna get up around 200 episodes. We're gonna start repeating ourselves
well, I try not
and
to.
not realize it.
Well, when I run into those, if I think I've done it before, then I go back and I look at our episodes and look through the titles. Have I covered this? Have I covered this? Have I covered this? So, anyway.
Sorry.
Uh, no worries. So there was a breakthrough that they thought on Thursday, May 15th, when a caller reported seeing Jamie with a young man who had a distinctive birthmark on his neck. There was a composite sketch which was created and widely circulated, but it led nowhere. Meanwhile, Jamie's disappearance was tearing his family apart. His father, John, quit his job at Manchester Airport to dedicate all his time to searching for his son. Jamie's 15-year-old sister dropped out of school to take care of the younger siblings, allowing their parents to focus entirely on finding Jamie.
Well, that family's pulling together.
Uh-huh. Investigators believe Jamie might have boarded bus 219 on the day he went missing, which was an idea fueled by Jamie's love for bus rides, something he found exciting as a child. One day, while Jamie's 12-year-old sister Jane was out searching for him, she struck up a conversation with Darren Vickers, the driver of bus 219, who was the driver on the day Jamie disappeared. Darren Vickers told Jane that he remembered seeing a young boy around 10:30 a.m. at Ashton Station on the day Jamie disappeared. Darren asked her, "Was your brother wearing a dark blue Reebok tracksuit?" And Jane confirmed that it was exactly what Jamie had on that day. Darren claimed Jamie had introduced himself as Dale and was carrying an unlimited bus pass, which allowed him to ride as much as he wanted. Jamie sat in the front of the bus, staring out the window quietly and occasionally chatting with Darren and a few of the passengers. Jamie spent hours riding around the bus around the city, and Darren didn't think much of it since Jamie had the right ticket. There were a few passengers from that day who also confirmed seeing Jamie, and Darren assured Jane he would call the police with this information and even visited Karen and John at their home to share what he knew. But despite all these new details, the investigation soon stalled and went cold. By mid-June, which was 6 weeks after Jamie's disappearance, investigators managed to find CCTV footage from Ashton Station, and it showed Jamie boarding a bus headed towards Manchester. The footage did air on the news, sending shockwaves to the public as it reminded them of the infamous Jamie Bulger case from 1993, where a young boy was abducted from a shopping center and later found murdered near train tracks. However, unlike James Bulger, Jamie wasn't forcibly taken in the footage, but police believe this wasn't a simple missing person case. They suspected Jamie had been kidnapped and possibly murdered. Officers warned Karen and John that Jamie was unlikely to be found alive due to the time that it had passed, but they refused to give up hope. Karen had an emotional interview that was conducted on her, which said, quote, "He's such a sweet, chatty boy. I don't want to think negatively, but part of me feels he's not coming back. Another part of me still hopes he's out there alive and someone is taking care of him. We search for him every day and every night." Jamie's family appeared on a true crime TV show, bringing more attention to his case. Shortly after that, a tip came in that Jamie's body was allegedly buried in a shallow grave 5.5 miles from Openshaw. On Friday, June 27th, over 100 police officers and police dogs combed the area for 3 days, but despite this effort, no evidence or body was found. From the start, police had their suspicions about one person, Darren Vickers, that bus driver who was the last to see Jamie alive.
I
Uh,
just looked up something on this. I'm trying to keep my mouth closed.
mm-hmm. Yeah, hold it till the end here.
Okay.
So Darren had offered to help the Lavis family, and they gladly accepted. At 27 years old, Darren was married with 4 children, but spent countless hours supporting Karen and John. He brought them food, looked after their kids, lent them his car for searches, and even joined in the hunt for Jamie. Darren became a constant presence in their lives, speaking to the media on their behalf and holding Jamie's photo while pleading for help. Karen described him as their quote, pillar of strength, someone who gave them hope and encouraged to keep them going. This closeness of Darren to the family raised red flags for the police. Why was he so involved, and why had he been the last person to see Jamie? Police interrogated Darren for 24 hours, which unsettled his family and upsetted Karen and John, who believed Darren was being unfairly targeted. The Lavis family even celebrated his release with a small party, but despite this, police continued their investigation, searching Darren's home and car, but initially found nothing incriminating. They did, however, discover a blood stain on the back seat of his car, but DNA testing revealed it wasn't Jamie's blood, but came from one of Darren's children who had suffered nosebleed. Darren's relationship with his wife began deteriorating, and he grew closer to Karen and John. They felt indebted to him for his support, so they invited Darren to move into their home. Darren and John gave up their bedroom so Darren could sleep comfortably while he helped with their children and even took them to swimming lessons. And their bond grew so close that Darren asked Karen and John to become godparents to his unborn child. News of Darren's interrogation and search of his home leaked and media coverage intensified. During one interview, there was a now famous photo that was taken of Darren shirtless, sitting between Karen and John on their couch with his hands resting on their shoulders. Darren continued to insist that Jamie was alive and possibly being cared for by someone too afraid to let him return, which was a statement that raised further suspicions and left the public questioning his true motives. So, solving this case was particularly challenging for Manchester police as Darren was seen as a trustworthy figure by Jamie's family. However, when Jamie's sister first spoke to Darren, he promised to call the police and share what he knew. We talked about that, but he never did. Statements from the bus passengers directly contradicted Darren's version of events. They reported that Jamie wasn't sitting quietly by the window. Instead, he was running up and down the bus, acting like Darren's assistant. Jamie was allegedly organizing tickets, even shifting the bus gears at one point, which caused the bus to jolt and lightly hit a small barrier, making passengers lurch forward. They said Darren treated the bus like a playground for kids. He let them shift gears and play with the ticket machine, presenting it as a game. Witnesses saw Darren patting Jamie's head and giving him a 50 pence to buy a drink. Their closeness was so apparent that some passengers thought Darren was Jamie's father, and one woman even asked Amy, "Did you come, or Jamie, did you come to work with your dad today?" Jamie replied, "No, with my uncle." But Darren's claim that Jamie had an unlimited ticket turned out to be a lie since such tickets weren't sold to children. And gradually, the pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. By reviewing CCTV footage from Aston Station, police uncovered more suspicious details. Early in the footage, Jamie is seen standing alone. At 11:20 a.m., Darren appears, pats Jamie on the head, and the two board the bus together. Darren had not shared this detail with police. Instead, he claimed Jamie rode the bus for 6 hours, and at the end of his shift, he offered to take Jamie home because of the rain. And according to Darren, Jamie refused, saying his parents weren't home, so Darren dropped him off near his grandmother's house. Darren suggested at that point that something may have happened to Jamie after that. Police were not buying this story and they dug deeper. They discovered Darren had only been hired as a bus driver a few days before Jamie's disappearance. When they obtained Darren's job application, they found he had listed fake references. There was only one reference that was real, and that person was a convicted child abuser. Investigators suspected Darren was a pedophile who had abducted Jamie after his shift, assaulted him, and then killed him. However, without a body, they couldn't prove anything. Darren's behavior also raised alarms. Instead of going to the police as a witness, like we talked about, he went straight to Jamie's family, building a close bond with them. Detectives believe Darren was manipulating the Lavis family to avoid suspicion and gain access to updates on the case. This is where I talked about. This guy is a complete piece of shit.
Helped with the search.
He
Helped with the search. What a piece
ingrained
of
them. He
shit.
ingrained themselves into these people's lives. They gave up their bedroom for him.
Hmm.
Eh, I'll continue.
Yeah.
By September, which was 4 months after Jamie's disappearance, the police decided to expand their focus beyond Darren. They interviewed his mother, sister, ex-wife, and two friends, but found no useful evidence. But the truth was beginning to surface. Around this time, two teenagers approached the police with a chilling story. One night, a man had tried to lure them into Reddish Vale Park near Manchester, claiming he had found Jamie. The man showed them a picture of Jamie and said, quote, I think this is him. He then pointed to a spot in the darkness and urged them to follow him to check it out, but the teens were scared and they made an excuse and left the area. They told the police the man looked familiar. They had seen him on TV during an interview, and this was none other than Darren Vickers. So Darren was arrested in mid-October after evidence piled up against him. The teenagers who had encountered Darren led police to Reddish Vale Park, where officers found a dark blue tracksuit and a green child's jacket. These clothes matched what Jamie was wearing on the day he vanished. The clothes, which were soaked from the weather, were left to dry before being examined. And during the investigation, a small jawbone was discovered in the clothing. Police continued searching the area and eventually found a child's torso. The arms, legs, and head were missing and could not be located. DNA testing on the teeth from the jawbone confirmed it was Jamie Lavif. Detectives believe Jamie had been assaulted, murdered, and dismembered in the park. Darren frequently returned to the location to relive the crime and scattered Jamie's body parts to delay discovery. When Karen was told Jamie's remains had been identified, she refused to believe it. It actually took her months before she was able to accept the reality. John was equally devastated. Darren had been his friend, someone who the family trusted deeply, and Jamie's siblings also struggled with the truth. One of his sisters covered her ears when her parents tried to tell her what happened, unwilling to face the horrifying details. Again, this guy ingrained himself to the family, became a trusted friend, and all along, he's the killer.
Hmm.
All along,
All along, he
this
knew exactly what had happened.
this is a depraved motherfucker. That it's terrible.
Range ways, here he comes. It's a
Um,
That's the name of the prison in Manchester. Strange
gotcha.
ways. Well, actually, I think they don't use it anymore. But
While living with Karen and John, Darren's behavior raised additional suspects. He had shown unusual attention to Jamie's 11-year-old brother, John Jr., buying him gifts for like a bike and shoes. Darren took John Jr. on bus rides, leading to several false Jamie that were reported to the police. Investigators believe Darren used John Jr. to mislead the investigation. Darren even took him to the same park where Jamie was murdered, seated him on a tree stump, and gave him a cigarette, and then threatened him, saying, This is where Jamie is. If you're not a good boy, I'll throw you there too. Son of a bitch, motherfucker. That's what I
oh,
said, not
so
him.
John's probably still in therapy.
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah.
Darren did get charged with Jamie's murder. In custody, he provided a 15-page statement that partially admitted to the crime. He claimed Jamie had stayed on the bus till the end of his shift and had been playing with the ticket machine. He said, quote, I told him to stop because he might break it, but he didn't listen. I raised my left hand and hit him on the head. He fell and hit a pole, then collapsed onto the bus step. Darren stated that Jamie stopped breathing, and in a panic, he drove his body to the empty house next to his own. Later, he moved Jamie's remains to Reddish Vale Park, where he left the body. Darren ended his statement with, I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm very sorry. I hope this ends it all. Darren tried to portray Jamie's death as an accident, but investigators didn't believe his story. He eventually told police he would plead guilty to spare Jamie's family further pain. Darren's trial would begin in early of March 1999, which was 2 years after the murder, and it lasted 7 weeks. His vague confessions and unclear method of killing made the prosecution challenging, but Darren's behavior convinced police of his guilt. Here we go. In court, Darren accused Jamie's father, John, of the murder, labeling him as violent. Desperate to divert attention, Darren claimed that 5 days after Jamie disappeared, he and Karen had slept together. He alleged they had been searching for Jamie in a park when Karen confessed her attraction to him. Darren claimed they had sex 11 times in total and suggested Karen's unborn child was his. Karen denied these allegations and took a paternity test to prove the child belonged to her husband, John. She said, quote, I've been with John for 18 years and would never do anything to hurt him. Despite this, the infamous photo of Darren shirtless between Karen and John fueled gossip. Neighbors vandalized their home, accusing Karen of sleeping with her son's killer. A lead detective summarized Darren's behavior with, quote, he thrived on control. He manipulated the victim's family, the media, and even the police investigation to suit his narrative. Ultimately, the jury found Darren guilty. Karen cried as the verdict was read. The judge sentenced Darren to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 23 years, condemning his lies and attempt to obstruct justice. The two teenagers who had provided critical information were commended by the judge and awarded 150 pounds each. Outside the courthouse, Karen told reporters, quote, today justice for Jamie was served. No child deserves what happened to Jamie, and now Darren Vickers is behind bars, making Manchester safer for children. Less than 24 hours after the conviction, Darren requested a meeting with the lead detective. 4 days later, in a high security prison, Darren tearfully confessed to the kidnapping, assaulting, and murdering of Jamie. He admitted his accusation against John were lies. In prison, Darren made similar admissions to his cellmates, but spoke without emotion, contrasting with his feigned remorse in front of the detective. Darren revealed he had targeted Jamie after seeing him pocket bus fares. He also admitted to prowling with pedophile friends around children's homes, searching for vulnerable victims. These new confessions were used against him when he applied for parole, ensuring his quest was denied. Karen said, quote, Darren's confession lifted a weight off us. It cleared John's name and proved Darren's guilt, even if it came far too late. Darren appealed his sentence twice, and both appeals were rejected. In 2005, his mother claimed Darren had been forced into confessing and fabricated stories to protect his family and friends. However, police suspected Darren's close circle had conspired to obstruct justice, though none were convicted. In November of 2022, reports surfaced that Darren, then 56, might soon be released. By February 2023, his parole application was under review but denied as he was still considered a threat to children. Ultimately, Darren Vickers betrayed, who claimed to help the Lavif family, ultimately betrayed their trust and committed a very unspeakable act. Jamie's family continues to visit his grave every day, every Christmas, and on his birthday. Karen heartbreakingly remarked, quote, instead of buying him toys for his birthday, I have to buy flowers for his grave. It's torture.
Mm.
She wrote many poems for Jamie, one of which reads, quote, of all the blessings, big and small, having you as my son was the greatest gift of all. Your smile is gone forever, and I can never hold your hand again, but the memories we made will stay with me forever. Um, Jamie Lavif was an innocent kid. He had a big
Mhm.
heart. He had an innocent smile.
Yeah,
He
he
vanished.
was down for some shenanigans, but what little
Well,
kid, what 10-year-old kid didn't?
but he vanished on what should have just been an ordinary day,
Yeah,
it's one of the most heartbreaking stories I've heard.
yeah. Take the bus to Manchester, hang out, come
Right,
home, buy some candy.
he just wanted to explore like like a kid would, but
Uh-huh.
this was tragically cut short. It's a child that was lost too soon.
Hmm.
Um, his memory lives on with his family and friends, never forgotten. Um, but this was so tragic, and like I said at the beginning, I think Darren Vickers may be one of the biggest pieces of shit I've ever researched.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a pretty big piece of shit.
yeah, yeah,
He's like a cult leader piece of shit.
yeah,
Yeah, he's like a cult leader piece of shit.
yeah, yeah. And this one was just a hard one to read because I was so angry at Darren Vickers for what he did to that family. I mean, think about that family. You
They lose their son. This one guy who was part of the investigation, who saw him, steps up, is like, I'm maybe the last person to see this kid alive except for his killer. I'm gonna help you find him. What a righteous dude. It turns out he's the actual killer the whole time. Oh,
well,
fuck
that's what I'm
that.
saying.
Talk about twisting your noodle up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I wonder how bad it has impacted their ability to trust people now.
I probably don't trust anybody.
Exactly, exactly. I think this family has lost so much. Not only their son, but I think they've lost so much of themselves because of this heinous, heinous betrayal of trust and
Hmm.
heinous act about their child.
Hmm.
Uh, I just, I hope not. I really hope they've been able to continue on, but I would be broken.
Yeah,
I would be broken on
yeah.
this one. So yeah. Anyway, that's the end of my story. That's the story of the murder of Jamie Lavis.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
you're
That was a
speechless.
great. Yes, yeah, kind of. I was like, man, fuck that dude. Fuck that dude. You know what? I hope Jamie Lavis found some rest. That's what I want to say. Fuck that dude, and I hope Jamie Lavis and his family found some peace.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
Thank you for that story. That was
You bet.
captivating.
You bet. Thanks for sticking around with me on that one. That will take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find more information about us on nerderymurdery.com. That's our hub for everything we talk about on this show. You'll find links to what we talk about, pictures, what we talk about, and you'll also find the link to our YouTube page, which is so often updated by Zig.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, there's some great scenes with Luthen Rail. It's Luthen, not Lucian. Sorry. Luthen Rail, where he's basically just being a right bastard. And there's a great scene between him and Mon Mothma. And then that point out of that where it looks like they filmed it in 1978. There's a couple of those scenes in there as well.
Awesome. Appreciate that. You can also find the link to our merchandise page. If you wish to show off your nerdery murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something from there. You'll also find the link to our Patreon, where if you wish to become a patron and donate to the costs that are associated with the show, that and the merchandise help keep us on the air, help keep us going, and helps with our uploads, our web page, and everything that's associated. It is not free to do this show, but we do appreciate our donors and our purchasers of merchandise. We appreciate each and every single one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. That's completely free and something you can do to help us out. It helps others find our show that may be looking for the topics we discuss. And last but not least, Chuck, you can go to sleep now.
Good night, Chuck.
With that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.